I've been accused of changing bikes more often than I change my underwear, and while that's pretty gross if taken literally, I will admit I have a tendency to gravitate towards new and shiny things and move away from things I've been using for a while. Knowing that, it says something that there's really only two pieces of gear that I've been using consistently over the last couple years on numerous trips and on both my Oregon BDR and Washington BDR week-long trips. One of them is my trusty Jetboil, and the other is my Tigerwall UL2 Bikepacking tent from Big Agnes. What makes it so special? Well, a lot of things. This video is sponsored by Motocamp Nerd. He's the one that sent me this tent, and I'm so glad that he did. Let me run you through just the basic specs of the tent so we're on the same page from the beginning. The Tigerwall UL2 Solution Dyed Bikepacking Tent is a 3-season ultra-compact, ultra-light bikepacking tent. Yes, it's designed for bicycles, it's designed for camping off of your bicycles, but everything that makes it great for bicycle camping makes it just as great for motorcycle camping. Funny how that works. It's a 2-door, 2-vestibule tent featuring 12-inch pole sections for optimal pannier and saddlebag storage. Packing this tent is a breeze. There's an included compression sack, which makes it even more compact when packed. That is a guillotine-style compression sack. The daisy chain webbing on the outside of the compression sack also makes it easy to strap to the outside of your panniers or the handlebars of your bicycle if you're bicycle camping. The tent also features daisy chain webbing on the outside for hanging and drying gear. There's interior gear loft storage that utilizes the dead space above your feet. The extended footprint, which is sold separately but almost a necessity in my opinion, creates a vestibule floor for dry changing, tent entry, and additional gear storage in bad weather. Also, the tent has the tip lock tent buckle system, which makes attaching the rainfly quick and easy. Packed weight is just under 3 pounds. I think it's 2 pounds 15 ounces. Pack size is 13 inches by 6.5 inches, so very small. Very small. There's a floor area inside the tent of 28 square feet, and the area of the vestibule is 8 square feet. It has lightweight one-piece aluminum poles, and this Tigerwall tent has a unique design requiring staking out the lower corners. It's kind of a 3-pronged pole instead of a 2-pronged pole like a divining rod. So the lower half only has 1 pole, so you have to stake out the edges to get the full area inside the tent. This 3-pronged pole design requires fewer poles, so the poles are a little bit smaller, but does require a little bit of extra setup. I'd call it a mostly freestanding tent as a result, not fully freestanding. The solution-dyed UV-resistant fabric drastically reduces energy consumption and water use during manufacturing and increases fabric quality if you care about that kind of thing. And probably most importantly and shockingly, the MSRP for this tent is $499.95, and if you want to buy the footprint that goes with it, which I think you should, that's another $80, so not cheap. Also important to note, there is a Tigerwall UL2 from Big Agnes that is significantly cheaper because it is not the bikepacking version. It doesn't have the shorter pole section. So don't go shopping for this and be like, you lied to me, it's only $380. That is not the bikepacking tent. You have to make sure it says bikepacking in the description. Well, now that you know the basic stats and specs of the tent, let's talk about what I like about it. There's a lot. The pack size, the very small, compact half a loaf of bread pack size is probably the most important and best feature of this tent. It fits in your luggage so much easier. You wouldn't think that losing like 6 to 8 inches on the end of it would make that big of a difference, but it really does when you're talking about packing on a dual sport and adventure bike, when you're talking about packing in anything other than a full-size 50-liter pannier, which, you know, rackless saddlebags like the Coyote or the Moscow Reckless system require smaller tents. With those, you're either taking up a whole side for your tent or you're strapping it to the outside if it's a full-size backpacking tent. This saves you a ton of space. Quick and easy to set up and tear down. There's a ton of room inside, plus the vestibule space for all of your gear. I always just put my riding gear inside the vestibule on my back side, and I just kind of lean up against it when I'm camping for a little bit of extra comfort and security. Nothing's coming in that way, or at least not a raccoon. And it keeps it perfectly dry and off the ground, so no water is getting underneath it either. The overhead loft is surprisingly useful. When I first got this tent, I thought, oh, I'd never use that, and I use it every single time for the bag the tent comes in. I put the storage bag for my sleeping bag, my sleeping pad. I put my mattress pump up there. I throw it all up in that loft pocket so it doesn't get kind of lost and mixed in with stuff on the floor of the tent. And then I can find it quickly and easily when I'm tearing everything down. So it's all part of the routine now. I really like using that pocket a lot. It's a great place to stash like an extra blanket or a sweatshirt or something that if you're not sure how cold it's going to be overnight, you want to be able to grab easily and find. The side pockets right next to your head are great for your glasses, your headlamp, your phone, whatever it is you think you might need to be able to find in the dark quickly. They also don't end up underneath your sleeping bag or pad or under your pillow, kind of mixed in with everything on the floor of the tent. It has these daisy chain loops on the outside, and the purpose of this is so that you can stick your wet gear underneath this. Obviously nothing heavy, but your socks or your neck gaiter, stuff like that can go under that and be hung up on the outside of your tent to dry, so they're not on the ground, or they're not like up in a tree where you're waiting for the wind to blow it down on the ground and you come in the morning and your socks are on the ground. So that's actually super handy, a feature that I never would have thought to include in a tent. I've never had a leak, never seen a drop of water inside the tent. It's perfectly waterproof. Bathtub bottom even works when it's wet on the ground underneath it. It's very durable. I have no signs of wear in the 2 years I've been using it. It's been stuffed into sacks, wet and dry and pulled out and used in the rain and used in the wind, and it looks as good as the day I bought it, except it's pretty dirty. It sets up very quickly, and there's color coding on the poles, on the guy lines or the lines that attach to the stakes, and on the clips that put the rain fly on. So that, in combination with the fact that the 2-pole end is always where your head is, makes it very easy to figure out which end is going to be uphill really quickly. So the asymmetrical design actually lends itself to that, and then if you're not sure, it's a total no-brainer. So in the dark or something, you just look for those 2 white ends, set your tent up that way. You know that all the white pole ends and the white everything is going to go together, and the gold or yellow goes on the other end. It also has a lifetime warranty against defects, so that's super nice of Big Agnes to do. It shows they have some faith in their product. And the rain fly goes on super quickly, so it's just 3 buckles and the 2 tie-outs at the bottom end, so you can get that rain fly on in a minute flat if you are camping and rain just starts appearing out of nowhere, which keeps happening to me on trips, so that's a convenient feature to have and know about. But it's not perfect. There are a few cons, the first of which is the weird design. So because it is what I call a semi-freestanding tent, it can complicate setup and require a little creative thinking if you're setting up somewhere where you can't put stakes in the ground. So it's not as bad as a tent that requires stakes to be set up. You can still set it up, no stakes, completely freestanding. The bottom end is just going to be floppy. You can still put your feet down there, but you're going to lose some square footage inside the tent. So you're going to have to find a way to tie out those strapping points, or just put a rock under them or something. If you really want a true freestanding tent, you got to spend a little bit more and get the copper spur, but it doesn't pack down quite as small because it needs more poles, because it's a 4-pole setup instead of a 3 like this. It's just kind of a design quirk. It's literally never once been a problem for me, but it's the kind of thing people like to point out and be like, that's gonna F you up. It never has, but if you want a truly freestanding tent, this ain't it, but it will work in a situation when a non-freestanding tent would probably not work. The poles will hold your tent up. And the biggest con and the most obvious con of this tent is it's $500. That's a lot of money to spend on a tent. I did pay for this tent when I initially bought it, and it's been worth it for me because I go camping a lot. So saving that 40% of space in my bag is a total game changer and something that I'm willing to pay for. But you got to understand, the rule in camping gear is the smaller and lighter something gets, the price will increase exponentially. It's the law of diminishing returns. And so if you want a tent that packs this small and is this light, it's going to cost a lot of money. Case in point, $500. But even the other companies like the UL2 Bikepacking tents, same way. It's hard to justify $500 for a tent unless you camp a lot. But if you do, you can spread the cost out over years of trips. It has a lifetime warranty, and the weight and pack size may make it worth it to you. This is not something I would buy for your first tent when you're just like, I think I'll try camping. No, this is the tent you buy when you've been out a bunch, when you've worn out your first tent, or at least you're starting to see the limitations of it and you want to upgrade to something that you know you'll use a lot. So what's the final conclusion on this tent for my review? It's simple. Basically, it boils down to what you're willing to pay for convenience and ease. Do you care if you have the smallest packing tent possible? If yes, well then you'll probably see the value. If no, then maybe you won't. You could probably be just as happy with a backpacking tent that costs half as much and is twice the size. There are ways to get a tent set up that packs as small as this without spending as much. The 6 Moon Designs Lunar Solo Kit is an example of that, but you're giving up convenience, ease, and to a degree comfort. That 6 Moon Designs tent is great. It doesn't set up the same way this does. The footprint is a piece of Tyvek, so it's kind of noisy. And you know, it's only 1 pole, so it's easier to pack, but it's not as comfortable a tent. It doesn't give you as much space to move around and hang stuff up and all that. So you decide on that trade-off. I motocamp a lot, so this tent is worth it to me. I go on long trips where the overall pack size and weight add up over the course of a week, so this tent makes sense for me. The good news is that they do go on sale from time to time, and so if you're patient and you pay attention to sales on Motocamp Nerd's site and other places, you can sometimes score a 20% off sale, which is significant on a tent like this and totally worth it at that point. You often see those on like a Black Friday sale, stuff like that, so keep an eye out if this is a tent you're looking for, but you don't want to pay $500. The bottom line is that the Tigerwall UL2 is an incredibly convenient, high-quality, durable tent that will last you a long time and possibly a lifetime. Quality and convenience-wise, I have zero qualms about wholeheartedly recommending this tent because it does what it's designed to do better than just about anything I've used. You gain a ton of space in your bags, but you lose nothing when compared to a larger packing tent. You'll have to decide if you'll use it enough or if the weight and space savings are important enough to you to justify spending $500. If you're shopping for the Tigerwall UL2 or any other motorcycle camping tent or gear, I highly recommend popping over to motocampnerd.com, where you'll find the world's largest carefully curated collection of motorcycle camping gear, handpicked specifically by Ben, not me, Motocamp Nerd Ben, for the needs of motorcycle campers and thoroughly tested by his team of ambassadors, of which I am a member. His passion is facilitating your motorcycle camping adventures, and he's put together his site with that in mind. He's a friend, he's running a small business. I think it's important to support him where we can, so please pop over, check out the site if you're looking for anything for motorcycle camping, up to and including the fantastic but expensive Big Agnes Tigerwall UL2 solution-dyed bikepacking tent. Please consider subscribing to the channel for more gear reviews, motocamping trips, ADV and dual sport riding and the like. If you got some information out of the video or it helped you learn something about this product, please consider hitting the like button. But for now, and as always, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!
Chewbacca. Taking a shit right there, dude. Come on, man. That's not cool.